As Phil recalled, it all began as a family affair.
Well, my first music, of course, was my father. My first thing I ever remember seeing my father play was in a nightclub in Chicago. Someone told you, my darling. And there was a place called Madison Street in Chicago, to where they had a lot of honky-tonks. My father had the first electric guitar on Madison Street.
Well, a great big howdy-do to all of our good friends and neighbors. This is Dad Everly talking for the Everly family.
And then sort of parlayed that into the Everly Family Show. And my mother joined the act about the same time.
Phil would go down and he would tell jokes. He would say to his daddy, he'd say, I kept 2 boys from fighting today. And I would say, how was that, son? He said, I ran.
Phil, what are you going to sing this time?
Well, Dad, we'd like to do a number for the folks, and it's called Don't Let a Love Die.
Eventually, the brothers left the family act to become a duo and headed for the spiritual home of American country music.
We went to Nashville and spent 2 years there. In those days in Nashville, there used to be a lot of girlfriends of stars, around you. And if you were on the outskirts, and they kind of liked you, and they could do things, make things happen. So we went down and recorded this 15-minute tape.
She sure looks happy, I sure am blue. She was my baby till he stepped in. Goodbye to romance, that might have been.
The brothers' first hit, Bye Bye Love, got to number 2 in the US charts and was followed by many other top 10 songs. By 1962, they're reported to have earned $35 million from their record sales. They even tried to make it into the movies as singing cowboys, but as Phil ruefully recalled, the project was something of a dud.
Take a message to Mary.
Donald was dressed as Black Bart, and I was the kind Charlie. And we sang, Take a message to Mary.
Take a message to Mary.
He says, howdy, stranger, and I say, howdy, stranger. We just sung this duet together, Donald's last line is, well, I'll be seeing you. And I said, not in the movies.
Don't want your love anymore. Don't want your kisses, that's for sure. I die each time I hear this sound.
The pressures of fame took their toll on the brothers' personal lives. They were both addicted to drugs, and Don was sent to hospital after a nervous breakdown. By the mid-60s, the British invasion of America had made their music sound old-fashioned, and their success dropped away. Phil recalled the end of the partnership.
We were playing a week at Knoxbury Farm, and Donald had called me and said that he wanted to stop, and we ought to take some time off from each other, and I agreed with him. That was going to be the last concert. And we had 3 shows to do that night, because that's what you do at Knoxbury. And on the first show, I think Donald just overdid the circumstances too much. And when I put my guitar down, and I did break my guitar on stage, but I put it down like you'd put down a weapon. I was through.
Don't want your love anymore.
Both brothers embarked on solo careers, but Phil couldn't shake off the shadow of Don, even when he went to the local shops.
But I sat in the market and I was buying some diapers for the baby, and a guy came up to me and he gives you one of those looks, like that he knows you. And finally came over and he said, I really love your albums, I said, oh, my Brothers and I albums. And he said, no, your solo album. And I was really, aghast, because very few people, it's a very small minority has anything to do with these albums. And I said, which one? And he says, the one of you sitting on the horse, which is Donald's album, He didn't even have my album. So at the top of his I said, well, thank you very much. I just, instead of explaining to him that I'm Phil, I said, well, thank you very much. I'm sure glad you enjoyed it,
Love hurts, love scars.